All right. Back to the response.
As I start to say, everything I'm about to say has been said repeatedly. As most of you know, I did spend 12 years on the fire company, and I was honored to be a part of the fire company. And in fact, the challenges that I had to my own schedule were one of the reasons why I decided not to be on the fire company anymore, because for the first time, we had a waiting list of people who were waiting to join. And I thought, one of these folks who's on a waiting list might be better at being able to respond. Their schedule might permit that more. That being said, I have enormous respect and always have and always will for everyone who works on the fire company. But your question, is it about money primarily? Yes, it is. Our budgets in this town have typically increased in round numbers 10% every year. I have said repeatedly that is not sustainable. It just isn't. It would be wonderful to give all of our departments everything that they asked for, anytime they asked for it. But to be clear, again, I have never not believed that this would make it a better fire company. If we hired one additional personnel, that would make it a stronger fire company. If we hired 2, even better. If we hired 15 more, even better. And we can say that about virtually all of our departments. The fact is that, again, I go back to the fact that, for example, in all of the contiguous towns that surround us, they have exactly 0 full-time firefighters. That certainly suggests to me that there is, perhaps on the part of our neighbors, if you will, perhaps an over-reliance on a belief that New London will be there to save the day if they can't do it on their own. But the fact of the matter is that they don't have any full-time firefighters. We have 4 currently. Again, would it make it a better department? Absolutely. But even now, with the proposed changes to the budget, taking out that full-time firefighter, even now, over 4 years, that budget has gone up 85% or so. Over the course of the last 7 years, between 2019 and the proposed budget for 2027, the budget, as it was originally proposed, had more than tripled. Again, that is not sustainable. And it would be wonderful to do all of these things, but it is not sustainable. And fundamentally, this just comes down to a disagreement. One of the reasons why I proposed adding $25,000 to the budget, as you folks know, as I explained last time, was to do things like increase the amount that we would pay to folks to be an on-call officer, either in the evening or on the weekends. I used as an example, if we made the number $10,000 for Saturday and $10,000 for Sunday, we would have more people than we could imagine who would be arguing over who would get to take that particular weekend. In fact, when I said that, Mike Matthew immediately typed up and said, "I'll take it." And that's the point. Every dollar we add onto that will increase the likelihood that someone will respond. And that's basic economics, folks. You make it $20,000 on a Saturday, again, you will have people fighting over who gets to do it. So the proposal was that we take some of that money, increase the stipends on evenings and weekends. We try and do basic things to advertise, like putting a sign in front of the fire company. That suggestion was originally met with a certain, to put it kindly, disbelief that it would make any difference. To my mind, we have currently 35 firefighters on the roster, is that right?
Approximately. I mean, it varies. Just because you're on the roster doesn't mean,
Right.
Like, I wouldn't necessarily consider someone that shows up to 3 calls a year, like if they're not, and yes, we have some individuals like that, so.
And so the point is, though, is that we have room for 45 on the roster. Anything we can do to promote the fire company and get folks to volunteer, whether it's something in the Kearsarge shop or a sign in front of the fire department, whatever, anything, to get that number up to 45 increases the potential that we've got more people responding. And then finally, it was brought up that we don't have enough EMTs available. And so we said, well, what if we gave you some of that money to pay the full cost for someone to become an EMT? And in fact, if they are still in the department a year later, they get a bonus payment of $1,000.
Which I think is wonderful. I truly do.
And the fact of the matter is, again, with all due respect to the folks who run our fire company, et cetera, The concern about $25,000 being added onto the budget, the reality is if we add a full-time firefighter, that's certainly not going away either, that $115,000 per year. Now, again, would that be better? I think it would. But again, the costs are what I'm talking about here. And we have too many people in this town who do struggle to pay their tax bills. We have a lot of folks who don't. But we have to be in mind, I would suggest, of all of these folks. And so, as I said, I don't want to be repetitive here. If it were up to me and I could give everyone everything that they wanted, terrific. But again, the numbers are relentless, and this budget is not sustainable at 10% increases per year. We cannot keep going like that. That's just not a realistic approach.
Assistant Chair, just a couple of things, if
Yep,
I may.
go ahead, respond.
So, Rich is correct. If you paid $20,000 a weekend, whatever the case is, that's not realistic. If we said to our finance director right now, you just won $10.4 million, she probably wouldn't be to work for the after the never see her again. So we can't let Lynn win. So listen, what we're proposing is the bare minimum. My goal is, by having this plan, that we're not, the fire department, not me, the fire department's not coming in the future saying we need 3 or 4 people per shift to fill. Again, we're the only organization in the town that provides services on a volunteer basis, covering the numbers of hours that we do. And so I do respect and appreciate Rich's suggestions. To say that I dismiss it, I'm open to anything. Like any suggestions that it's, what I dismiss is that the fire department hasn't done everything possible, from a recruitment to retention to staffing our levels down to make it more palatable for people to participate. The EMT aspect, I totally get. What we're looking to do is not get a tanker of fuel, right? The 10,000 gallons, $10,000 on a weekend is not realistic. It's like saying we've got a ship full of fuel coming in to service our apparatus. What I'm saying is we need gas in a gas tank to pour into our vehicles to get us down the road. This is a stopgap measure. This is not the end-all, be-all. And truly, we've tried to put off hiring additional people, using interns, using live-in students, using students from the high school. We've contemplated looking at different shifts for our own firefighters, covering weekends. And so I struggle a bit knowing the intricacies of our organization. And at this point of almost 34 years on the department, or it is 34 years on the department, been chief since 2007. We've done things to try to help out the town and to plan accordingly and to be fiscally conservative. The truth be told, our budget has increased. Why? Because in 2019, we only had 2 full-time people and a per diem person. That has increased. And so when you add 2 full-time people, yeah, it's going to increase. And it's going to increase if we add 2 additional people. And it's going to increase even more if you have to hire 4 per shift. And that's the direction that we're heading in. And to continually compare us to our contiguous towns is not an equitable comparison. I almost take offense to it. And so, in fact, I don't almost, I do. And so Sunapee currently is planning on hiring a full-time firefighter. They're planning on hiring 2 per diem firefighters. They've tried to hire full-time people for the last, I want to say, 3 or 4 or 5 years. They're the closest department that's similar to us in population. They don't have the infrastructure. They don't have the age population. Do they have an influx of summer residents? Absolutely, as does Newberry. Newberry has half the population we do. Guess what? They also have half the calls. Guess what? They think they're doing a banner job, and I'm sorry to the Newbury Fire Department that I'm going to do this because I was asked to compare us. They think they're doing a stroke of business because they have 5 people showing up during the daytime hours. So I said, what's your average age? And I won't mention the person's name. 60 was their average age. I said, okay, who's your youngest person? Good buddy of mine, Steve, 67. Okay, who's the next one? 74, 78, 77, 83. Those are your 5 people that are doing the banger job in Newbury providing services. So, yeah, can they stretch a line, put out a fire, do a building search, throw a 24-foot extension ladder? I mean, we had some people, I don't even think they know but anyway, so
Yep.
I digress. My biggest thing as I come to the conclusion of my career is to make sure it's, again, I'm the co-pilot looking across at the freezing rain on the wings, warning you that things are coming up that are not going to be beneficial for our organization. You guys are the pilots. You're the ones that run the airlines. It's your job to make the decision one way or the other.
Sure, go ahead.
There is something else that I do think bears repeating, as Mr. Ensign began his presentation with. The fact of the matter is, folks, that when we look at what we have coming down the pike at us in terms of a new police department, in terms of a new Department of Public Works building, and just to add a little bit more icing on the cake was when we found out recently that the water precinct is looking at a very substantial expenditure in order to increase capacity, and told us that they were hoping that the town of New London would be able to foot the vast majority of that expenditure, which the number was $5.1 million was quoted as an estimate. When we look at those things that are coming, it may make this year's budget look simple by comparison in terms of the numbers we have coming at us in the coming years. And again, to ask folks to sustain on an ongoing basis just whopping tax increases, I don't think is realistic.
I mean, I guess I'd argue, Richard, that the tax increases, that we haven't seen increases, and while the budget's gone up, we haven't seen an increase in taxes in those times. The rate, the overall tax rate has remained essentially the same.
Can I ask a question? So, Rich, in those calculations, I know that there is, some funds coming back to us from the contiguous towns that we help support. Is that being considered as an offset at all?
When you refer to the cost, I think we don't get anything back from towns for mutual aid.
Yeah, we don't. Dispatch is the only community that would receive.
Okay, I thought there was.
Yeah.
I thought
So, but that's actually a good question. We do receive mutual aid from them. So, for instance, for the contiguous towns, if we want to use those as an example, we've provided mutual aid to Newbury more than they've provided to us. We've responded with their building fire that they had yesterday 7 times in Newbury. We've now responded 7 times in Sunapee. They've responded 5 times each back to New London for our fires or incidents because they cover Lake Sunapee. We've responded to Wilmot, Sutton, Springfield twice. Springfield, we actually just had a mutual aid call that was canceled. So Springfield's now 3 times as of today. They've all, 2 of them, Wilmot and Sutton, have responded to our community 3 times. So we've been the recipients more of mutual aid from some communities than the mutual aid that we provided. But in total, when you look at it, we do go to Andover. Newport, we've been to Newport twice. Newport's been to, or once over there, requested twice. They've been to our community twice. So there's this, again, this symbiotic relationship, no different than the town New London, the college, the hospital. Like, we all work very, very well together because, truth be told, none of us can handle a larger incident. We just don't have the staffing, the equipment.
That's what my thought is, though, is that, like, we may be the only one with full-time people, but they are contributing. We're all contributing to each other.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And Chris, to your point, The tax rate is fine, but the reality is if the tax rate stays exactly the same, but the valuation on a property doubles, the taxes go up substantially. So this is not, as you well know, just a matter of percentages in terms of what a tax rate is. It is what is the overall tax bill that people face at the end of the day.
I understand that, yeah. I guess I would just say I guess I've heard two different things. One was, as you said for the selectmen, that we're not entertaining deferring. It is no for now, probably. I know you might not say no for the next year because that will be a different select board, but in your mind, it is not right now because of other priorities.
I was concerned about any suggestion that we are quote-unquote deferring it.
Well, that's what it sounded like, that there was a deferment to potentially next year.
No, we've never said we were deferring it. What we said was that the answer for this year is no. Next year, we will look at every single department's requests and the numbers and everything else, and we'll see how the budget looks at that time. And that's when we'll make a decision on this issue again.
Okay. Karen?
One thing that I'd like to keep in mind is we're talking right now about the fire department budget, but we're looking at holistically the entire budget through this process. So to think of this in terms of a isolated question, I'm thinking of it in more broadly, that we have this question right now, but we'll consider it in terms of the broader budget. And perhaps there's opportunities more broadly to find savings or deferments or postponement there as we consider and hear from those other departments.
Yep,
So,
that's a good point.
And certainly, it's, we as the fire department, the Board of Fire Wards, to Rich's point, we are very aware of the stresses that the town New London has and will be facing in the future. So much so that the New London Firefighters Association, amongst the officers in the company, have chatted about, because we've talked about the station expansion, which is needed for a new piece of fire apparatus, like in an effort to not compete against the DPW, the water department, the police department, the school district, all the other intricacies that the town has, does the New London Firefighters Association, as a 501c3, privately raise money to build the expansion on the station in order to not have stresses? Because at the end of the day, we can have the best equipment, we can have the shiniest building. If we don't have the firefighters that are trained, that are proficient, then it's all for naught. So that's my goal as I transition out is, if nothing else, if the decision is made to no or defer or however you want to, just so be it. But as the person that is ultimately in charge of operations and the incidents that we respond to and the training and all the other complexities, it is, I would be doing the taxpayers, the select board, the Board of Fire Wards a disservice, our membership, for not at least advocating and saying, this is what we need. It's your choice to fund or not to fund, but at least you know it's out there, so that it's not a situation where all of a sudden this catastrophic thing happens and people go, oh, I had no idea that the water department or the water precinct wasn't able to supply. We've known that for years. Like, this is no surprise. So what I'm doing, I guess, is dropping the leaflets before some catastrophic bomb gets dropped and do what with you want, so.
Okay. Thank you. I'm just cognizant of time. I know we're at 7:08. We still have police and emergency to go. So any other questions or comments for Chief? Okay, Lou, go ahead. I do now.
Chief, just to, throughout the year, the fire department does ancillary courtesy calls. It's, putting, changing batteries and smoke alarms and stuff like that. I did have somebody the other day at St. Andrews tell me that you guys are not doing that anymore on higher higher authority?
That is not the case. We are in the process of evaluating what we do or how we do the things we do. So I was tasked, because it was brought up that the fire department responds to, like hypothetically, a bunch of unlocks at Bittersweet. So I did the research, and residential unlocks, we're still providing that service. We provide the services that all other fire departments provide until the time that someone says to us, we as the leaders of the town New London think that we shouldn't be replacing smoke detector batteries, that we shouldn't be doing residential unlocks, that we shouldn't be doing the miscellaneous service calls. I think that, like we just did that over at, off of Poor Road, I think that if you live on the lake and you don't have kids in the school district and you're on a private road, that this is the minimal service that we can provide to the taxpayers in order to take care of you. Now, again, these aren't getting toned out like all the other fire departments are. A single on-call officer shows up or qualified person and mitigates whatever that is.
Okay, are these calls also accounted for in the number of calls that you're?
They are.
Okay.
And on an annual basis, public assists, normally we do about 20 residential unlocks, and public assists are in the 50 range.
Okay, the EMTs, how many hours does it take to get an EMT ready? As far as
Approximately
training?
1,000 hours.
1,000 hours. So you're going to get a volunteer who already has a full-time job, perhaps, who is going to be going on calls, and in addition to that, spend 1,000 hours training and practicum.
That is correct.
You're asking a lot of an individual. And
Well, in comparison, like the normal work week for a person is 2,080 hours. So they're effectively, it's 50% of the normal working schedule.
I also think we're not asking anybody to do that, we're offering it. So if
Okay.
someone raises their hand, that's on,
Okay.
they had to have thought about that, think about the time commitment.
Okay, the assistance, mutual assistance, is that part of the Emergency Management Assistance Compact under the rubric of the federal government?
It is. Yep.
And you don't want to mess with that, because you mess with that and you basically put in jeopardy all federal funding for the towns.
So I wouldn't go that far. I do think it's important to look at the equitability where if we were providing a significant amount of service and it was auto aid, where towns were automatically requesting New London, I do think to some individuals that recouping some funds would be appropriate.
Yeah, true.
At this point, when we look at the numbers and statistics, that's not the case. And so it's pretty equitable, a call or two amongst departments. And again, I think that we would hate to say to someone, we're going to bill you or you're going to bill us contingent upon how many calls we go on, because that's going to also then dictate who gets called. The only time that the fire department can bill out is for forestry incidents, and that's based upon state statute, which is kind of funny.
Okay. Well, and last question, with is there an agency that rates fire departments as far as that would have an impact on home insurance rates?
ISO, yes.
So would the staffing of the fire department be part of that rating?
Staffing and training is part of that formula. So
it
contingent upon number of firefighters, response times, amount of apparatus, how often we test our hose, certifications, that all gets sprinklered. To Rich's point, the water precinct, how we cover it, fire flows, so that's calculated. So if you're within 1,000 feet of a fire hydrant, that you get a break on your insurance rating. We've got a ton of dry hydrants and cisterns that we maintain throughout the town, more than 24 of them. And so that affects the insurance rating. So that's all part of the calculation.
Okay, thank you.
And just to go back to, I think, Kim, you were asking about if we bill towns,
We do for dispatch, but it's dispatch only, and we'll have those numbers by the end of this week. But it is dispatch that we charge for.
Okay. Any public comments? Colin? Sure, go ahead. Can you just state your name and, oh yeah, push the button.
Pushing my button. My name's Pete Lauridsen. I've been on the fire department since 1971. I made it till deputy chief 25 years ago, and I've been on a fire board since then. But one other question that was asked, and I think it was you that asked that, as far as the training for the EMTs, what the hours are. So you take, what was it, 1,000 hours? And then level one, what is that? How many hours is it? So you got 270 just for a level one firefighter. It's an incredible amount of time, plus the amount of time that these firefighters are responding to. And so I'm just saying that I wanted to make a point that I retired. I had to step down from deputy chief because of my family, and I made that decision, and my business, because I ran a business here in town for almost 50 years. So it's tough to be able to get people, and at that time, I was stressed pretty bad because of the Dart helicopter started in. I don't want to take a lot of time up here, but anyway, I'm glad to be still involved, but I'm sure glad that when I go home at night, I can get a night's sleep. And I think that these firefighters really need to be backed up, and I think that Jay's points are very valid, and the money is a problem. I understand that, Rich. But I still looking at, we don't want to kick the can down the road too far here. It just seems like that's what's going to happen for a long time. And I think we're all going to be paying for it monetarily, or we're not going to have the coverage. So thank you for the opportunity.
That's okay. Colin Beasley, resident. I don't know who said it, but I think it's important that we begin to think about what service levels are we wanting from the various departments in the town. And I think Brandon Adam, the gentleman who spoke to the select board meeting, talked about certifications and EMT and whether someone with the right skill set is available on the call out to a particular house. And the only way to get that is to get your 24/7 coverage. So I think that we need to think about the opportunities for efficiencies and capabilities out of each department, as Karen was talking about. I think there's opportunities in each department that could offset whatever it is that the fire department is looking for. And I think we need to separate the operating cost pressures from the capital cost pressures. And the capital cost pressures, I think this town needs to begin to think about prioritizing their investments. Police department, fire department, DPW, water, and God knows what else is going to come in. So there needs to be a dialogue in the town about what comes first, what's the financial impact of that investment over what period of time, what comes second, what comes third, what's the financial impact. It's that financial plan that we've talked about ad nauseum that this town needs. And part of that financial plan has to be what's the priorities of this town. And I think it's time we do that because the prices are high. Thank you.
All right, no further questions for Jay. We can move on to Chief Cobb. Thank you.
Oh, I have something.
Could you please take one of those and pass it down? Sure. What I'm passing out right now is an updated police department fleet information, which at the suggestion of Colin last year or the year before we did, and so I'll update this every year because I think it was a great suggestion to put down on paper for everyone to see what our fleet looks like, how many vehicles we have, their mileage, their average mileage over the year, warranties was another question, possible replacement years, et cetera. So we'll get into that, but that's what's getting passed around right now. Okay, so we'll start with police, I guess. I have two budgets to go through tonight, but police is the bigger one, so I guess we'll start with that. And going through each of the line items, I'm sure that you've looked at the comparative budget sheet that Lynn sent out, and police is a 0% change from FY26 to FY27. And that's for a few reasons. The biggest one is that we are not requesting a cruiser for this year, so that's a big amount of money that is not in the FY27 budget. You'll see another decrease, although relatively small, I guess, is in computer license and fees. And there's a small increase from 17 to 22,000 in vehicle maintenance, vehicle repair and maintenance. And the reason why I went up in that is because we are not asking for a cruiser this year for FY27. So I anticipate perhaps some more mechanical things that need to be addressed, increased maintenance, repairs, or otherwise. As I stated at the Board of Selectmen meeting last week, there was also an increase from the original proposed budget in travel and meals. And the reason that I did that was because at this point in FY26, we're almost entirely expended of travel and meals. So just seeing what that cost increase has been to date, since I had an audience with the selectmen, I thought I would make that request as well. General equipment has gone up slightly, as has investigation supplies, and I try to base a lot of those numbers off of what we have seen in years past or anticipated cost increases. I'm just trying to hit some of the higher points. And there's many line items that are static from last year that are the same amount, the same ask. But overall, my budgeting philosophy is to look at actuals of what we have spent and what I really anticipate increases being in the years to come. So that's a general overview of the police department budget. Certainly there are some, wages and salary and benefits is all there. But as far as the operating costs of the budget outside of salary and wages, there are not any huge items that jump out this year.
Any questions for Chief? Karen?
Thank you. Do you anticipate that this ability to defer the cruiser this year will flow forward in other years, getting some longer life out of them, like sort of what's...
It could, it could mean trying to replace 2 cruisers in 1 year, but if we were looking at that, we would look at maybe deferring one of those, because 2 cruisers in 1 year is going to be a considerable amount of money. But I just didn't feel that it was necessary to request a cruiser for FY27. So it's possible we could request 2 in FY28, but as I indicate on the sheet here, it's the health of the fleet, if you will, is evaluated every single budget cycle. Mm-hmm. So there are some things that I might not be able to anticipate happening with one of the cruisers, and then that will certainly be the next one to be replaced. So I try to evaluate that every year. I mean, we stay really, really on top of our maintenance, our oil changes, tire rotations. So we really try to keep a close eye on the vehicles and keep them as healthy, if you will, as we can.
Thank you.
Lynn, just a quick, what was the reason for, we have two, I know it's semantics, but the line item for retirement and,
It used to be broken out for their admin assistant and all the other officers, but Questica is having trouble with that, so we kind of threw it into one line.
okay. It's, yeah.
Oh, New
So
Hampshire
just so
retirement
people
and
aren't-
then
just
New
so
Hampshire
people aren't
police retirement.
confused as to why it's 2,900
Sure, yep.
increase. Okay, anybody else? Any public comments, questions? That could be the easiest.
Don't even say it
Police
out loud,
review.
Chris. We haven't done dispatch yet, so I don't know.
Okay, well, that was fast.
All right.
All right, well, let's move on. Lou, would you
Oh,
like to?
can I do dispatch?
Oh, sorry, dispatch, you're right.
That's all right.
You're right, you're right. Damn it. I did speak too soon.
I'm going to change my papers out here. Okay. So, and I guess I should have started by saying there was no request for any new personnel this year in either police or dispatch. So you'll see our wages in dispatch reflecting the steady rate, 5 full-time employees in dispatch and some part-timers. The dispatch, the computer license and fees line item has actually gone down, and the reason for that is that for at least one of the years, we were carrying 2 different software programs while we were making the transition to a new CAD, a new dispatching software and records management system. So there is a bit of a decrease in that, and Karen very appropriately asked a question via email about why the computer license and fees item for FY25, we had budgeted 70,000 and change, and we spent almost 16,000. And the reason for that was due to timing of us rolling out our new software. The grant that I had obtained for our new software it paid for the licensing and then the first year of maintenance. So when we rolled it out, I didn't, in fall of 2023, when I was creating the FY25 budget, I didn't know when our rollout period was going to be. So when we did roll out in February of 2024, it included that first year of maintenance. So that's why that line item was so dramatically underspent for computer license and fees in dispatch. But going forward, we'll be responsible to pay for that annual maintenance and cloud hosting. Computer support was up by a little bit, $3,000 almost. Conferences and training was up by $250, I think, and then office supplies was down because I found that we weren't spending the entire amount of money that we had been budgeting in the past. So that is the dispatch budget in a nutshell. And what happens with the dispatch budget is that is put into the overall calculation of how we bill the other towns. So we take that total amount, we take out New London's portion, and then the remainder of it is divided amongst the other 4 towns that we provide dispatching services for, based on a 3-year call for service average. Each town is a 3-year call for service average. So if there's one outlier a year for any one town, it's not going to completely skew their numbers.
Again, questions for Chief on dispatch? Karen?
You don't have to look that.
I know.
That's all right. Ask your questions.
One of the things that we talked about last year as well, and when we met, we discussed it a little bit too, is the dispatch agreement and some of the terms of that and evaluating that per se going forward, that it has been a while since it's been evaluated. And
Yeah.
there are a lot of intricacies in that per se. And I guess it will be determined, the billing for the participating towns will be determined, is it in November to November? Is that like the cycle with
The
that?
cycle is November 1st to October 31st. So all of those numbers were just given to Ashley, and as she referenced earlier, we'll have those numbers for the other towns probably by the end of this week of what their expected costs might be.
Very good. Thank you. But as I say, there's a lot of detail in that that would be really interesting to kind of
Sure.
tease out a little bit going forward.
And when we drill down into that, the cost structure, the fee structure of dispatch, if, you know, at some point in the future, if another dispatch study is done, because as you referenced, the last two were in 2014, 2015 era, some of those things might be able to be looked at, and we might be able to tweak or to alter the way that we're currently having our fee structure for dispatch, while also trying not to price our customers out of the market for getting dispatch services from New London. Yeah, I could go on about that, but I don't know if tonight's the night for it, but.
Anything else? Okay.
All right.
Get
Thank
out while you can. Thank you, Chief. Oh, we do. Sorry. Question in the back.
Tom Carley, resident. I, along with some other people in town, were hoping that the Board of Selectmen would have plowed forward and gotten the study done before this budget cycle, but obviously that didn't take effect. The dispatch center is a glorified call center, and call centers are horrible to operate. They're capital intensive, hard to manage, and they're a scale business. What you got to do is push more volume through there. And our dispatch center, we've gone from servicing 11 towns to 4. And those 4 towns, we could be at 0 come January, because they're one-year contracts that expire December 31. I gave Rich and Charlie a 6-town overview of 23 and 24 operating expenses, and we are way out of line, probably to the tune of $200,000. If we outsourced to either Hanover or to Merrimack County, we could save $200,000. So if you think about it, if we were to get out of the dispatch business, we could pick up $500,000 for the budget year ending June 30, 2027. $200,000 of reduced operating expenses. We wouldn't put the $50,000 into the capital reserve that the Board of Selectmen want, and we have $250,000 sitting in there, which under a warrant article could be brought back and put back in the general fund. So we're sitting here moaning and groaning about Jay and his firemen when you've got $500,000 in low-hanging fruit. And what would that entail? Go to Hanover, go to Merrimack County, get a proposal in the next 30 days and see where we're at, see how far off the market we are. It's at the point where, you know, we can't afford to be doing this. We're paying concierge prices for a commodity service. So I would say, go for the low-hanging fruit. Thanks.
Thanks for your comment. Chief, any response or?
Yes, absolutely. Respectfully, Mr. Carley, I completely and wholeheartedly disagree that it is a glorified call center. I think that they are far more than a commodity service. We have skilled, trained, valuable employees in there who do an incredible job every day to provide the first responder cut to any sort of an emergency call. And so the people that are in that dispatch center, again, respectfully, sir, I think it's a drastic minimalization of their skills and what service they perform in there. And to liken them to low-hanging fruit and the dispatch center to low-hanging fruit, I think is just rather inappropriate. I haven't seen your numbers that you're mentioning here now. I haven't seen that formula. I would be amenable to looking at it. So I don't know where you're getting the number of saving $500,000 or whatnot. But again, I think that's part of what the Board of Selectmen has committed to doing in the future, is to look at this with some fresh eyes and some newer material, if you will, from the 10 years ago that the study was done. So I respectfully disagree that it is a glorified call center, because they are so much more than that. The employees in there provide an incredible service to not only the town of New London, but the surrounding areas, and they should be applauded for it.
Just to piggyback on that, these are real people doing real jobs. These meetings are recorded, and they do watch them. And I think that that's important to note, that these are real people doing this job, and this job is not easy.
Thank you, Chief. Lou, I think we're ready to move on to you.
All right.
Do you want to switch chairs, or would you like to just stay there? I saw another name tag for you over there too, so you can.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I got all my stuff here, so if you don't mind, I'll.
You stay where you want to stay.
Okay. Emergency management is we total of 12,500. We're pretty much it's steady, except the $100, basically $50 increase, and that's for travel. What we're doing this year is we're getting additional people, especially Don Eberly, who's agreed to assist us in meeting with the HHS folks. And the $400, which is, it shows us a 100% increase, it's on for publications and public affairs. We're going to have a, like we did right before COVID, it's a town hall meetings with the condo associations and also in the library and these town hall meetings had the presence of the pretty much entire emergency management committee to talk to the people about how to prepare for all hazards, disasters. I will say, even though it shows 12,500, consider that $9,400 of that is pretty much, although germane to emergency management, but we have some of the equipment repairs, it's primarily generators, 7,400, and the other one, which is the hazmat team fee, which is $2,000, and that's pretty much a constant. So that's it.
All right, thank you. Questions for Lou? Any questions from the public? Okay, Lou. Thank you very much.
Wow.
All right. So that
That was
covers
easy.
all of our departments. Any action items?
No, I think the only reminder that I had was that you all don't vote on these individually each night. We'll wait to
We wait
till
till
the end.
the end.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. And that.
Okay. Any other items or questions, thoughts from the committee? Any motions?
Do we
Lou?
vote to accept the report, or do we?
No, we don't vote until.
No.
Until at the end? Okay.
Correct.
Again, on the budgets, yeah.
Yep.
'Cause and usually, I'm going to guess we're going to see other changes as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay. Any motions to adjourn? Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Oh, aye, okay. Nay!